One of the main ways of making more money as a game developer is to take multiple jobs at the same time, or maybe not jobs that will be full-time jobs, maybe part-time jobs, multiple part-time jobs, or jobs that don't take you so much time every day to complete. And all these together, they end up being a pretty interesting income source altogether. And I can tell you this because on my experience of more than 4 years of this and working for top companies such as Zelda, that is a courses, and it's a platform with programming and game development courses with more than 300 courses and more than 1 million learners. So indeed it's one of the biggest companies right now that does this. And I also work with Voodoo, one of the biggest mobile game development companies right now, with whom I tested 3 prototypes, and I also have my own indie games. So as you can see, I have been able to manage all this together, and also this own a YouTube channel with more than 10,000 subscribers. So all this together, I don't rely on just one income source, but I rely on multiple ones. So if one of these income sources disappear, or or it's not doing so well that month, it doesn't matter because I have another 2 of them. So that's something that is pretty interesting for you to learn. And in this video, I'm going to be showing you the 3 main ways in which you can achieve this. So let's get started. So first of all, we have here the 80-20 rule, okay? This is actually a topic that could be discussed on its own. Maybe you have heard of this. This actually comes from economics, okay? But it can be applied to anything in life. And the key thing here is that you have to identify the 20% of inputs that are giving you the 80% of your outputs. So this is basically a way of identifying your priorities, okay, and identifying which clients, which jobs are making the most money out of you. So let's say, for example, that you have client or job A, B, and C, and let's say that for A you are getting 10 USD, let's say. For B you're getting 20, and for C you're getting 50. And this is something that actually happens a lot. Sometimes you have a client that maybe requires much more job, much more effort from your side, that you have to end up charging much more money. Maybe client you have to charge them way less money because they don't have that much. Maybe they just hire you one time every 1 month when they need something specific. Maybe client B is, let's say, like a normal client or an okay client. Sometimes you have to negotiate a lot the price with them, but it's okay. But then maybe you have client C, okay, which does pay you a lot of money, or well, maybe not a lot of money, but a pretty interesting amount of money. And you don't have to start to negotiate all the time. Oh, I will charge you this, I will charge you that. Or you don't have it, or all the time it is going to give you lots of projects or a long time project, okay? So with this principle, what you can say, okay, most of the revenue directly comes from this source. So what happens if I maybe not dedicate that much time to A and B, okay? So maybe you don't work that much for those clients anymore, or you tell them, look, I have a client that allows me to work much more, okay, and pays me more, to be transparent. So if we are not able to come to a better agreement that benefits both of us, unfortunately I will have to stop working with you. If they accept, perfect, you will then have another C client. And if they don't accept, what you do is that basically you cut them off, okay? You don't consider them anymore. This doesn't mean not answering their messages anymore if they have a proposal, but this will allow you to actually invest most of your time in those sources that actually make you the most money. And to give you a practical example of this, of course, not with real names or examples, sometimes I do have different clients or different projects in general, okay? And let's rank them here, 1, 2, 3. Let's say that $1, $2, $5. So sometimes you don't have the mind or time to manage all these projects at the same time. So these 2 projects don't really make a difference at the end of the month. You understand what I say? So sometimes you can just work less and make a similar amount of money and dedicate more time to other projects. Okay, so you say for example, okay, I don't work with these clients anymore, but I upload more YouTube content. Okay, that's something that I have done a lot of times, and I still have a pretty interesting client or project that I have going on. Or once again, you can dedicate even more time to this C client and not make 5 or 50, make, I don't know, 75, for instance. So I believe that you understand where this is going. You can actually read more information and practical examples on the internet and on books and on YouTube videos on how to apply this rule for your life, but I would really consider doing so. Now, 4.2. This is actually divided in two. Firstly, to build a relationship with those clients that you have, with those projects that you have to start thinking win-win. And that's why I put these 2 points into one. Because one of the best ways of building, let's say, a commercial relationship with a client or with a company is to think win-win. What does it mean? Exactly what you read. That you win and that your client also wins. And you may think that this is something like pretty common sense. But there is a quote that I really like, that sometimes common sense is not that common. Okay? Because sometimes we forget this and we don't behave from this principle, from thinking win-win. We sometimes just think of, okay, getting this job done with the least effort possible and trying to make the money. And that's something that how society works right now. And there isn't anything bad with that, because after all, we are paid to do something, and then let's see what happens. But in reality, if you're able to think win-win, to have an honest conversation with your client and try to look for a third alternative which benefits both your client and you yourself, trust me, you're going to be able to build much better relationships in the long term. And it is completely correct when they say that your network is your net worth. So if you're able to have interesting relationships with good clients, with those kind of C clients, okay, you will indeed be able to make much more money and manage different projects in less time. Okay, and this is, by the way, a principle that I have learned from the 7 habits of highly effective people. Okay, so once again, also here as an extra point, reading books is super interesting. And this is actually the third point. Read about how to be productive. This concept of thinking win-win, of also the third alternative that I mentioned, as well as the 80-20 rule, I have learned them all in books. And by the way, if you want to know more about the third alternative, this book actually has that. Basically, the third alternative basically means that usually when you speak with a client or whatever, you have one alternative and a two alternative or a second alternative. The one is that just benefits the client, okay, which would be hire you for the least amount of money. The one that benefits you is the one that you will be able to get the most money out of it. But there is a third alternative in which both your client and you, both of you, find a way in which are happy with the agreement. That is basically the concept. So you can see how indeed reading books, that as you can see, there are thousands of them out there. Invest in that, not only money, but in terms of time on reading them. And trust me, you're going to be able to learn a lot about productivity, how to manage different projects. You will be able to learn more how to prioritize some clients, some projects over others. And trust me that then this at the end is going to allow you to have multiple income sources. So if some months do not work well in some income source, or even in some of them, you will still be able to make at least some money. So that's something pretty interesting, and that actually for me myself have worked perfectly, because right now I have lots of 5-star reviews, me as a freelancer person, in which I apply all these concepts of win-win, third alternative, etc., that allow me to work for Zemba, one of the biggest courses platforms right now, allow me to work for Voodoo, etc. So these are all cases in which I've applied these keys and many more to my own life, and that have really allowed me to create much better things. Okay, so this was all that I wanted to mention in this video. Make sure that you subscribe for more if you like it.